I'm in the recliner and not the roller chair, so I'm going to have to click things faster. I should probably just move the chair and get in my drafting chair. That's probably what I should do. Talking about body language. Sorry for all the low end if you got low end on your speakers. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect, isn't it? Perfect. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay. There. Thar. I've got the double headset on. I'm in the Discord. So that is this link. And it's muted right now. But, I'll try to start hanging out. What's up, Tish? I'm going to go ahead and do the Title 17 disclaimer here. Title 17 of the United States Code outlines copyright law, including the Copyright Act of 1976 and subsequent amendments. It was originally codified into law July 30th, 1947. And the most recent version was updated in December of 2016. Title 17 includes chapters 1 through 8 and 10 through 12, which cover topics such as subject matter and scope of copyright, copyright ownership and transfer, duration of copyright, copyright notice, deposit, and registration, copyright infringement and remedies, including provisions for secondary transmissions by cable systems or internet in this day and age. We need some updated stuff. It's probably not on a priority for them right now. Anyways, in fair use doctrine, Section 107, Title 17, Section 107, which allows the use of a protected work without the copyright holder's permission for certain purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. So in this case, I will be invoking this law, be hopefully protected by this law, to or Title 17, Section 107, for the purposes of teaching and research, I suppose. There might be some criticism in here. Bob Dylan is one of the most prolific and one of my favorite writers of all time. However, what are all my things here? Chat. Here we go. Let's just throw this up, because we will be looking at things in this little box. And you can see the chat without having to have another window open. I don't know if that helps. But, yeah. So we're going to talk about body language as it relates to how I know, or how I excuse me, how I relate to it is through music a lot of the time, because of what I'm going to talk about, subtleties of body language, and how this stuff goes back to before we had spoken languages, or many spoken languages. So you have to think about come on, what is your deal here? F11, there. All right. So I'm going to start it out funny, and all of these things are going to fall under Title 17, Section 107, right? Yeah. All of these are going to fall over that. I know that YouTube has a thing where after 30 seconds, they'll claim you. We'll see what happens with this video. But this is a minute and 24 seconds. But the thing is, as long as I'm criticizing or teaching or research, or for research purposes, talking about it, then it's okay. So this video, and it is legendary. This commentary spread like virally. It was Bill Burr on his podcast, famous comedian Bill Burr, making some criticisms and commentary about the performance that Chuck Berry, Yoko Ono, and John Lennon did. And you may have seen it, but if you haven't, here's how it starts.
It's John Lennon is singing with Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry is probably one of the main reasons why John Lennon ever picked up a guitar.
So, probably so. Probably John Lennon quoted a lot of John Lennon loved Southern music and Southern blues, so wouldn't surprise me at all.
So now he's on TV. He gets to play with his idol. They're playing Chuck Berry's hit Memphis.
It might have been one of his idols. It might have been, maybe not.
Okay, John Lennon's got Yoko in his fucking band. They're in the middle of singing this song on television, and they're killing it. It's going great. Yoko's playing some stupid fucking drum.
Okay.
And even though she has no fucking talent whatsoever, he's putting her in the fucking band.
So that's part of his job is making people laugh. No fucking talent whatsoever. He's criticizing.
So shut the fuck up and stop nagging him, because he's too much of a fucking pussy to tell her that she has no talent. All right?
Decades-long debate about Yoko. And there's, like, in music, it's like, there was always, I know in social circles, whether it was spoken or not, again, body language, nonverbal stuff, like a girl potentially, it was put in our mind that just one single woman could just ruin a whole band, because there were people who said that Yoko Ono did that to the Beatles.
The only reason why you're here, Yoko, is because you're sucking my dick. All right? No, you can't play the bongos. But anyway, she's up there playing the bongos, right? So John Lennon, Chuck Berry, two of the greats of all time.
Here's where it gets to the this is an extreme example. We'll get to other very, very subtle things that actually we recognize unconsciously, which is fascinating to me, that we speak a whole nother language besides, what we say with our mouth. It's crazy. Anyways, so what's coming up is some body language, an expression, whatever you want to call it. You'll see.
Harmonizing, singing this hit from the 1950s. That's what this moment's about. And Yoko, in the middle of it, can't handle that she's not getting any shine. She takes the fucking microphone out of the stand, starts playing the bongo, and as they're singing, go, go.
She's beating the drum with the microphone. Wow.
Johnny, go, whatever. She picks up the mic, and I swear to God, goes, some fucking crazy shit. And
okay. So I got to put full screen on this so you can see Chuck Berry's face. And I know this is an old-ass video, but I'm pretty sure you can see that his eyes and his lips are pursed. His jaw is kind of jutting out.
And you see Chuck Berry's eyes fucking open as wide as they are, and it's that fucking look.
All right, it's that fucking look. But
if you gotta like the real
look.
actual.
What the fuck are you doing? No. Stop. Okay. Chat. All right. So another more extreme or easier to see, I say. It's not extreme, I don't think. This body language. It's simply just expressions. It's what we used in the wilderness when we were hunters and gatherers. When hunters would go out, and you have to be quiet. Sometimes a gesture. Where's my? Why? I thought I had a wider camera angle, but yeah, like gestures, like or if you're close enough, looks. I don't know if you can see my eyes, but it looks like, something like that. Were potentially in a hunting situation would be you're going to eat tonight or not, or it could be as severe as like you might die with a simple gesture, and that might be the last thing that you see is that gesture, someone trying to inform you that you're about to die and you better chill out. So Queen, Freddie Mercury, Queen, and the rest of the band, Brian May, I forget the other guys' names. They sang them incredible. All of them are incredible singers, but all of their body language is very different. But Queen is, arguably a good band, right? I would say they're a great band. I would say we're a fantastic set of musicians that could communicate with one another in a way that was special. And these well, if you watch Freddie Mercury, he's already got the theatrics going. He's got his little he's making gestures. This guy here, though, he is in a space. He's got his eyes closed. This is at Budapest. But hey, Whitney, this is in Budapest. He's probably got a crowd of thousands of people in front of him, and he is zoning out, man. Maybe he trusts Freddie so much that he can do that. Maybe that is something there, an instinctual trust that you develop after, sometimes it develops quickly, and other times it doesn't even have to develop. It's just there. You are able to interpret people without speaking to them. Uh, and it goes beyond music, but it really shines in music. You can see it. So, continuing on here. And when I see this image here of the crowd, I see all of these, and who knows if these are the real people that were there, but I see each one has different sort of, they look like they all have their own reason they love Queen or Freddie or Brian. It's very interesting to me. So Freddie is super confident. He exudes confidence, and that not only affects the performance from the audience side of it, but it really does affect the band too. And the band can sort of, if they have a strong, confident person like Freddie, and you've got the rest of the band that can communicate. A lot of times the bassist and the drummer will have a thing, and I have a video I'll show of that. A good example of it, anyways, from Woodstock '94 with Bob Dylan's set, and but there is a certain point where the competency, because of the confidence, people will close their eyes, and can hear. I'm speaking from musical terms. You can hear the language, the body language, so to speak, without even seeing it. It's quite bizarre. I wish we understood it more. And the crowd threw up, looked like kind of like a flower dandelion, maybe a peyote button, and he tossed it back into the crowd. Now, based on where he was on the stage right then, again with the confidence from from Freddie, the band is super in sync. Their instincts are all aligned, and so the music comes alive when that happens. It sort of takes on a life of its own. But there is a gesture that happens just prior, and because the cameras are switching around, it's hard to get a good idea. It's not just a wide pan shot where you can see how everyone is interacting with Freddie. But watch his shoulder. Alright. Actually, a little before. Okay, it was the shoulder down to the leg. That shoulder down to the leg was right on tempo with the band. And that would be a point, especially with the upcoming change to the next part of the song, that they might crack their eyes open, or if their eyes are open, glance in his direction to make sure he's not going to do speak some kind of language physically that means we're not going to do it just yet. Hold on. It's very much like the hunting thing. Like if you're hunting an animal you may have it in a position that you could kill it, but it may endanger someone. Like, no, 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 let's do it. Let's do it safer, or let's do it now. I think this is a primal thing that goes back a long time. I'm not the only one that, there's a book that Robert Greene wrote called The 48 Laws of Power. And, he's an interesting fellow because he said a lot of what he writes out of anxiety and anger and fear. And 48 Laws of Power was a book that he wrote from his observations in basically conflict resolution, negotiation, and stuff with different countries over years. And he talks a lot about this this instinct, or this language that we speak. It's not an instinct, it's a language. It is a language. It's a nonverbal language. And it was used for a very long time, a very, very, very long time, and now it is not used as much. And he's not really, it isn't taught. In some ways, it can't be taught. It's because it deals with cultural things. So some people can't learn certain, or don't learn certain dialects, if you want to call it that, of nonverbal stuff. So I've given you some. These are some obvious body language signs. And you see, what I was going to say is, he faced the audience when he did the shoulder and leg movement, and that meant his back was to the band. In other words, everyone in the band would know that he is performing for the audience now, so they probably should take a look. And he positioned himself in the center, and just after that, there's a clip here. Bass player's eyes are open. He's looking at the crowd. Those are some more subtle things, but these are the obvious things. I mean, that image right there. I look at these lights, and I remember we still used these kind of lights in 2000 on big production tours coming out of Nashville. These were hella hot, not mics, lights, mics and lights. Let's see what else we can find here. I want to see some Brian May. Okay, again with that chest movement is so in sync. So it's like there's a lot of trust there because those guys have been playing, and they know that he's got it. So it makes something special. That should be clear. But what is it that's doing that? I, from my experience, can relate to knowing someone's body language. It's not just genetic. When I perform with certain people, it's a varying degree of how I can interpret them depending on who it is. But these days, it's the same people, and it has been the same, gravitated back towards a lot of the people that I played with for a very long time. And there is you can close your eyes, And if you listen, you hear what they're signaling you, signs and signals. And by the way, I used the hunting reference. That would be the male portion of the nonverbal stuff. There's a whole other thing with females and other identity, and any other identities that existed beyond binary. So, but to make it simple, female and social stuff, and having have children and periods and all this stuff. I'm talking tens of thousands of years ago. Gestures and, like, say, during birth and while raising children and stuff would have been just as much of an example, or good of an example of what kind of consequences if you ignore the body language, ignore the law. That was not a lost language then. But now it it's it seems to be something that is not considered. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about it now, right? Robert Greene's talking about it, so that's good. But and if you've ever read the 48 Laws of Power, it is a kind of a disgusting book. But if you watch an interview with this guy is troubled about the world, and he sees a lot of these problems that result from lack of good communication and lack of understanding. And this stuff is cross-cultural. So the middle finger doesn't mean fuck you in every language. Certain gestures are not looked upon very well. All right, so the next one I got is Billy Joel Pressure live at Yankee Stadium. Another one with pressure, under pressure and pressure. I'm curious. I don't know if I know I've seen the whole show from Yankee Stadium in 1990, but it's been a minute. Let's look at some of the body language going on with the band. See what kind of band he had in 1990. Already, super confident bassist. She's just boom, 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 boom. Okay, I want to hear that again. Okay, so the lead in on that is an eighth note hit on the snare. Actually, no, it's the of the four. It's the of the four. So that means a 16th note lead in. So I don't know at what point in the set this was. A lot of times over the course of the set, if things aren't in the beginning, sometimes people get nervous and their body language changes and you can't interpret it because they're not speaking their regular body language. And so you have to interpret through their anxiety body language. Then it can all sort of resolve over time when the anxiety goes away. He's doing some running and jumping like Garth Brooks. Okay, whoever that is, that doesn't look like Billy Joel. Look at that. Hold on. Look at this face. All right. So he looks to me like this is an intro, all right? And he doesn't know how long it's going to go. and he's stoked and he's performing, but he's waiting for a cue. He looks like he's on stage right, but I don't know. Drummer is visible. He's putting more into this camera's all fucked up. There we go. He's putting more movement into the snare than force is required to get that sound. So he is visually signaling, which makes a lot of sense because that was a big stage, a lot of people on it. So he's the kind of guy who wants to make sure, hey, everybody, make sure you are on the one, on the one, and I'm gonna lift my freaking elbow up, make sure everyone is tight because Pressure is a very tight song. It's meant to be tight like Billy Joel and Glass Houses. Yeah. There's some parts in here that are very arpeggiated, and they need to be on time. If they're not on time, then it sounds like an absolute mess. So this is the part I was talking about. If the drummer cannot get everybody in sync, and that's the drummer's job, really. They're in charge. They know it. Then this part that Billy Joel is playing becomes much harder. Okay, so here we have, and we're talking in terms of musical nonverbal stuff, but this goes everywhere. It's not just music. But it is a way for me to explain it, I suppose, and to maybe think about body language and nonverbals in other scenarios and situations where power dynamics are at play. Because in music, power dynamics are at play. So at this point, you got Billy Joel. Who's the power guy on the stage at the time? Who's the power guy with Queen? Who is the hunt leader, the leader of the pack, right? Or in the Pretenders, you know, who is the leader of the Pretenders? Patty. So that piano part is really fucking awesome, and he plays it on this interesting synth. But if the tempo is not like dead on, it can be aggravating to play. It can be aggravating to play, and you might make a mistake because if there is something even slightly off, those arpeggios don't really work. They sound like sloppy. You know, now they are into the performance, and now they are in the song. Like these guys are long gone. They're not on Earth. I don't know how to describe it, but it is a feeling that people have tried to describe when you have this immense connection to music, and you feel like you're not even there. It's just the music. You're playing it, but it's like playing you. And that'll ramp up and down throughout different performances. The best performances, it's just a big, high ramp. At this point, like that's I could go on, but there's like that's a minute and 50 into the song. By that time they made it through that first part, if I played the rest of the video or you went and watched it on YouTube, Pressure Live at Yankee Stadium, you'd see that once they made it through that first syncopated part, the drummer had established everything. And this is all really nonverbal. It's just things that that musicians pay attention to because it's related to music, something that can't be spoken, it can only be played. Well, I mean, you can sing in music, right? I'm not, you get what I'm saying. The parts that are not able to be spoken, but only able to be expressed, yes, Whitney, they're locked in from that point on. Professionals. I would say that also professionals can have a hard time like locking in because I've seen it. But like if you've got a good band and you got a good, I mean, this is fucking Billy Joel, right? He's got some guys. Prince, you know, there are like James Brown. Like there's just there are certain people who I would say they attract really good players, or they curate really good players based on this ability to understand this unspeakable language. Because there are players, however you want to define that term, I'm talking about in music, but there are players that meet the marks and exceed the marks, but they don't work. It's like a relationship that just won't work. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. This is Dire Straits. Money for Nothing at Live Aid in 1985 with Sting. And so this was like prime time shit. Uh, Sting is wearing some Nehru Guru stuff. Mark Knopfler is in his I guess nouveau western attire with a bandana. Got a little bit of a trucker punk vibe. And he's just standing there. All right. They're about to play Money for Nothing. Yeah, I watched Live Aid too. It was, and they rebroadcasted it as well on the local TV channel sometimes. Live Aid was amazing. I was a child, but like I remember seeing it, and it was just I loved it when it came on the TV. So yeah, it's rockabilly phase. Um, but Mark Knopfler in this particular song, like there's nobody I've ever heard, not even in Nashville, and I've seen some killer players there that can actually play and make it sound the way that he plays it. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to have any close-ups of it. There's only a few videos I've ever seen that have close-ups of him doing this. Drives me nuts. So yeah, let's look at some nonverbal stuff going on. You got Sting and Mark Knopfler and the rest of the band. You got the keyboard player for Dire Straits there. Looks like the drummer. And maybe the bassist behind him. Surprised Sting didn't pull the bass out. But, if you don't know, Sting, whether it was his manager or he himself, stipulated in the recording of Money for Nothing that he get writer's share for the song for him doing that line because he said it made the song. There was some tension there, and I can kind of see it in the posture there with how Mark is standing and how Sting is being very, well, you'll see. All right, Mark grabs the guitar. He's looking in Sting's direction. But he's waiting for the guitar. Give me the guitar. And then he immediately turns to the right, and his that would be me back in the day, but not for Mark Knopfler, but for some country band. Um, Looks like he's kicking some stuff around to make room for Mark. And Mark looks like he's kind of paying attention. He gives a very slight turn of the head as if to acknowledge, and it was because Homeboy was plugging him in, right? So these are small ways where it's like that he was actually being respectful. This communicates like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, but it's very subtle. Um, Stagecraft. Glasses on. That's interesting. Um, you know, it is entirely possible that there was some interaction prior to this performance in the green room or whatnot. This is 1985. I don't remember when this song came out, Money for Nothing. Uh, let's check the release date. $1985. So this was basically right after or just before they signed that contract, and Mark Knopfler wrote this song, had the idea for these lyrics, and Sting sang it and said, I want 70% writer's share. So if you think about it, like uh, The Hunt again, then this, and like what Whitney said about, them being professional, and once they get locked in, they're locked in. Uh, the look on Sting's face is hilarious, man. So that's basically his only part. Now, Mark Knopfler is gonna tear this shit apart for the next, I don't know, 5 minutes, because this version is 7 minutes and 33 seconds long. So, um, slightly, he feels like probably out of place because he's normally the lead singer. He's normally the head guy, the Police, and then his solo stuff, which came later. But I feel like this was Sting. This look, whether he was feeling good or not, there was something there inside of him that was like, I need to be doing this for myself. I need to be doing me, not singing backup for fucking Mark Knopfler. Whereas he's actually a killer bass player, Whitney. Now, from this point on, it's really cool because he's exuding a lot of confidence, and the band feels like, hey, we're the show here. We're not saying we're cooler than Sting, but we got Sting on stage with us, and he had his part, and now he's gonna have some more parts later, but they're backup parts. I'm gonna play the guitar, and we're gonna fucking rock. He exudes that kind of confidence. Huge Bob Dylan fan, this guy, and I think Bob Dylan is actually next. Yep. So Bob Dylan is next and the last for looking at this body language shit. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but no, I'm not. It's basically, you know, awareness of it, um, being aware of that body language, that lost language in modern life, and I would say, especially in music and performance, because it can really enhance the whole experience for you, the audience. But he's a huge Bob Dylan fan. He even sings like him. Yes, having fun. I have a thing at any band practice. If people are like being all poo poo and not having fun and making a stink or something, which has happened, believe it or not. Um, like a big stink about something music related or non music related. Um, it's if I'm not having fun, I ain't. Then actually, what I say is, okay, so with your complaint and whatever the thing is that you're talking about, um, are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun, then I don't want to be here. So I'm here to have fun. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. I'm here to have fun and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Great song. Get your money for nothing, you chicks for free. So the ones I wanted to end with are sequential in timeline. This is a performance by the band during the last waltz in 1974, I believe, is when that was. 76. Yep. So it was Thanksgiving 1976. The band played with, it was an ensemble performance with many, many artists. Neil Young, Bob Dylan, I'm spacing out on names. Van Morrison, Muddy Waters, a lot of legends. So the band had their work cut out for them. They had to learn all this material and then perform it, which isn't necessarily the same thing because they weren't rehearsing with these legendary performers. They were the band that was going to go and play with the legendary performers and have to know all of their material well enough to perform it with them, which means to read the body language, the cues and stuff, to speak the unknown language, the lost language, which is in these scenarios are usually very subtle because you may be performing and giving out and yeah, giving out communication to the audience. That's one thing, and communicating with your band another. So you're communicating with at least two different groups. Again, it goes back to the long time ago, tens of thousands of years ago. Group hunting, groups, tribes. All right, hunter gatherers. So this is Bob Dylan playing with the band. Let's see what happens. We got Neil Young and it looks like Van Morrison, Neil Young, uh, Joni Mitchell. Oh, I forget that guy's name. Okay, so they're doing, this is gonna be really dynamic because there's so many motherfuckers on the stage, and already Joni Mitchell's like, you know, she. I feel like she's already in the song. I feel like she's the look on her face is like, in case anyone looks at me, I'm good. I'm ready for this. Ringo, is he on organ? Are they just letting him play on the organ or something? Who knows? Uh, Ronnie, that's another Ronnie, isn't it? Okay, so let's go. This is Van Morrison, and you got Rob. Is it Robbie, the bassist, telling Van Morrison something? No, that's Robbie over here on the right. Um, Like I said, I space out on the names.
The distance is not near.
So Bob is wearing a white hat, a very white hat, with a white feather or a purple feather or something in there, pimp hat. And he's styled rather well, I guess. Levon Helm is looking over here at stage left. If you watch the whole performance and you have an eye for this stuff, you'll see all kinds of things going on behind the scenes and people communicating and talking, and even across long distances, like from one side of the stage to the other. If you pay enough attention, you'll see the subtle nonverbal communication between production staff and musicians and production staff. And because when they're playing live, they can't just walk up and say something. They have to do it non-verbally. They don't have to, but people who don't end up getting fired because it's it's very distracting to walk up to people and say, "What was it that you needed?" and could be constantly bothering the performer and asking them what they need, whatever it is. Do you need a bottle of water? Do you need more guitar in your monitor mix? Do you need to go smoke a joint? Do you need me to plug that thing into that thing? Do you need me to fix your pedal? Do you need new batteries? There's just a whole list of things. And all this is done primarily with nonverbal, lost language. That little wink and nod, a very subtle wink and nod to Bob from Van Morrison. I believe Van wanted to be next to Bob, and this was the moment that oh, shut up, Nick. Whitney, you caught on to that. Oh man, I wouldn't even. Oh no, just stop, Nick, stop. We're talking about Van Morrison wanting to stand next to Bob Dylan, and in this moment he looks at him right there. And I would presume that Bob looked back at him and was like, yes, this is fine. They were all kind of gathered around, and by the end, they have found their spots. So I am sort of putting forth the idea that that the body language was interpreted in this performance, and everyone ended up where it would work out the best for everybody, and they all had some kind of a group chemistry. And looked like Van Morrison was one of the first to want to do that. Like, I need to be where it is, wherever that is. So again, go back 10,000 years and you don't know where it is exactly you need to be in order to do what it is you need to do. But there's this social element, maybe even expectation that you need to be in a certain place. So, just my interpretation is that I feel like that earlier, whenever they made eye contact,